So thank you everyone for joining this Promotional Compliance, Keeping It Legal Without Losing the Spark webinar, where our established host Amy is going to be talking about the about how to keep it legal while still keeping that creativity within marketing campaigns. As marketers know, sometimes when you come up to into the legal department, they can come up against some blockages, but Amy's going to talk through how you can still sort of create experimental campaigns and influential marketing campaigns through that. So yeah, so she's just going to kind of take you through, and she'll be our guide for today. So thank you very much.
Naomi. Yes, morning everyone. Nice to see you all here. Thank you for attending. As Naomi alluded to, sometimes the legal team can be where creativity comes to die. I try desperately hard not to be that wall in which creativity crashes upon. So the solution tends to be, well, okay, maybe we can't do it that way, but let's look at the alternative. So what we wanted to touch on today throughout all of this agenda is examples of where it's been done exceptionally well, maybe some examples where there have been learnings for brands, not ones necessarily that we've worked with, but just in general, some how not to is just as much as some inspiration for you. So really the first question to ask is, why do it compliantly in the first place? Why is compliance important? Now, for all of those in a marketing role or a PR role, then absolutely that bottom line is the most important for you. The last thing you want to be obtaining for your brand or the agency on which a brand works for is reputational damage, right? We do not want to be sat in that position. For somebody in a legal position, you know, sat in compliance, or somebody sat as your legal counsel or as an external lawyer, they look at that top line. That's where they don't want to be. Now, where it says risk of worse laws, we're today just looking at the UK really, but we are one of the most lenient markets across not just Europe, but the globe in terms of running prize promotions. It's really just about being fair and honest with your consumers and doing things in the right way. There's no need to register the promotion. There's no taxes. There's no type of promotion that's illegal. But there are other markets in which that is the case. If we look to our closest neighbours in Ireland, there's a limit on the maximum prize value that you can give away if you're running a purchase associated prize draw or game of chance. If we look to Italy, every promotional mechanic needs to be registered with the authorities at the cost of a few €1,000, and then the brand pays 45% tax essentially on the prize fund, so a significant amount. And then we might look at other markets such as Belgium or further afield, whereby games of chance are actually prohibited entirely because of the link to gambling, particularly when they're obviously associated with the purchase of a promotional product. So I say risk of worse laws, that's what I mean. We don't want to be flouting the very lenient regulations that we have in the UK at the risk of legislation being imposed to make sure that brands and their agencies do the right thing. So the UK regulations that I keep talking to you about, hopefully you're all familiar with the Advertising Standards Authority, the ASA. They're the ones that police essentially the regulations. The regulations are set by CAP, who you might be less familiar with. CAP being Committee of Advertising Practices, and they have a code that's 22 sections long, covering all sorts of elements, misleading marketing, alcohol, etc. And one of which is Section 8, which refers to running prize promotions. And within that, it says that you must have a set of promotional terms and conditions which outline all of these things. How and when to participate. Do you need to make a purchase? If so, must you retain proof of that? Packaging, receipt, so on. Exactly what is the prize and the specific details around it. So not just a television, what size, what model, etc. How winners are selected. Is it a random prize draw? Are we judging all of entries? And which so? What's the criteria that you're going to be judging entries against so that entrants can give themselves the best opportunity to win? And then this element at the bottom, significant factors likely to affect someone's decision to participate. Nice and broad, the ASA can impose it really on in any way they feel fit. But the best example would be if you're giving away a holiday or an experience. What is included? What is excluded, specifically? Transfers, travel, what type of accommodation are you giving away? Is food, breakfast, what board, how many people? Can you go during term times or holiday times? All of those considerations to be made will impact on somebody's decision as to whether or not to participate in the promotion. So what we do for our clients is we draft a set of terms and conditions, anywhere between 27 to 40 clauses long. And within that, it outlines all of this detail. And then because of the requirement to communicate the material information on any piece of content advertising the promotion, we draft some summary terms which are required. When I say any piece of content advertising the promotion, that can literally be anything from packaging, out-of-home advertising, to using an influencer to communicate your promotion on social media or your own social media posts. They all need to have summary terms and conditions. So where we're not limited by space, this would be what they would look like. If we are severely limited by space, perhaps on a banner ad, or maybe limited by time, if we're doing a radio ad, then we would reduce this down to what could be acceptable, but also remaining compliant. So we would work very closely with our clients to manage what those summary terms look like, depending on what is already being communicated in the content. So looking then at the rules for promotional mechanics, we'll have a quick look through these. So as I said, section 8 refers to the different types of promotional mechanics that there are. First one is the one we're probably all familiar with, prize draws. Everyone enters, data gets collected, and the correct number of winners get selected at the end according to the relevant prize. Total chance in determining the winner. Instant win is another form of chance-based game, and that can take two guises. One would be what we call our Willy Wonka style promotions, or at Pro Veritas we call them controlled prize placements. And that is that those winning items go out into the target market, and somebody opens it and they find out immediately that they're a winner and also what they've won. The alternative to that is the digital version, where you participate online, either through entering a code from your packaging or not, and you find out again there and then as to whether you are a winner and what you've won. The other mechanic that we would, probably a lot of our clients are guilty of calling a prize promotion in general, is a competition. Now that is in itself its own mechanic, its own definition, and that includes an element of skill in determining the winner. So again, we have multiple versions of this. In the UK, it's permitted to ask a multiple choice question, and all of those who answer the question correctly would then go into a prize draw, but it's still considered a game of skill. It's not the case in certain other markets. In the UK, it's permitted. An alternative would be to complete an online puzzle in the fastest time, determining the winner, fastest person completing it, or as I referred to earlier, those judged promotions where you're asking people to submit a recipe, an image, a vlog, a piece of content that then gets judged according to a set of criteria, and obviously the highest scoring entrants are the winners. And then last but not least, we have rewards, whereby we are rewarding a consumer with a gift for the completion of an action, otherwise known as a gift with purchase promotion, if you're asking them to go ahead and purchase a promotional product in order to claim their gift. So these seem fairly straightforward as a mechanic, but there are certain elements that we do have to bear in mind. So we're going to touch on each of these mechanics in a little more detail and look at a case study or two for each mechanic, just to get a feel for what it could be done. You'll see here this infographic on the left-hand side. That will change for every mechanic that we're going to go through, and it basically just has a look for you as to determining the level of effort that's likely to be expected from your consumers, the number of entrants you would therefore receive, and the amount of engagement you would expect from them, plus the cost and risk to the brand running the promotion. Prize draws in general, very low barrier to entry. Just submit a few details, perhaps even just like or comment underneath a promotional post on Instagram. So therefore you're likely to get a lot of entrants, but the engagement with them will be fairly short. So a fairly low level of engagement. And then in order to set up, it's very quick. Cost is exceptionally low, particularly social media promotions. And the risk to the brand of fraudulent activity or consumers potentially misusing the promotion is pretty low. So the CAP code says that in order to run a prize draw, what you need to do is ensure that your winner selection determines verifiably random results that are either selected by or under the supervision of an independent party. So random is nice and easy. You know, we could go out into the street and video a person at random, and they would also be considered independent, get them to randomly select a winner from numbers 1 to, let's say you have 2,500 entries. They pick a number, that would be your winner. But what you have to prove to the ASA when they come knocking is that these were verifiable. Prove to the ASA that you didn't repeat this process, or click on a website, or random generation on your spreadsheet multiple times until you got the winner that you wanted. So verifiable is the element that sticks here. So as an example of something that we ran with PepsiCo, in this instance Pepsi Max, was a huge activation surrounding the Champions League that they set up one in Trafalgar Square and another in a smaller part of London. And the idea was that there was this huge fan zone engagement, and to encourage recycling, people were encouraged to put their cup or their can back, and they got entered into a prize draw. And there was also a queue here, as you can see, for an interactive element on the right-hand side, whereby you kicked a ball, and whether you scored or not was determined via so kick a ball into sort of a screen, an interactive screen, and you were determined as to whether or not you were a winner. And you also got a chance to win a GIF of you doing this. So it was hugely interactive. Doesn't just have to be as a prize draw, something exceptionally basic and straightforward like a microsite. This can be part of some of the larger activations that you're looking, experiential events perhaps, looking to run, whereby you can engage directly with consumers. You don't automatically have to jump to an instant win in that instance, but a lot of brands do like to. But what we can do is ask people to engage in this manner, and they can enter a prize draw in order to have the chance of winning something linked to the event. As you can see here, it was merchandise, etc. So it was brilliant activation, huge crowds, huge participation rates in the middle of Trafalgar Square. Instant wins then. So you'll start to notice here a theme of independence cropping up from the CAP code. And what they ask for here as part of an instant win promotion is an independent audit statement, which essentially proves two things: that your winning tokens were made, and then that your winning items were distributed throughout the target market. So for the likes of the Cadbury's cream egg, hunt the white egg, gold egg, solid egg, various iterations of it over the last 12 years. What we would do is we'd go into the factory, watch those winning items being produced, whether it was a white egg or an egg being sprayed gold. We would then wrap that food safe golden ticket round the product, wrap it in the foil and take it away. The audit statement would be to say that we oversaw the production of the winning tickets and the winning items. Then there was a statement to say that we then, as an independent party, are fairly and randomly distributing those winning items throughout the target market during the entire promotion period. Nobody knows, not the brand, not the retailers, that these products are being distributed. That is locked down to ensure the integrity of the promotion, and that there can be no fraudulent activity, and reduce this level of risk here that you see on the left-hand side. The digital version would be that a systems review is done to make sure that if we're not developing the website for our clients, that the web developers have set everything up accordingly, and we're just ticking the independent box. Yes, we can see that all the winning moments are present. Yes, we can see that the correct messaging is being shown to somebody that is or is not a winner at the right time. So there's two different versions there. It's a nice example of not only a controlled price placement promotion, but maybe something that isn't necessarily your massive ticket items like the £10,000 cream egg. In this instance, it was just mini little, I guess, Easter eggs, you could call them, mini little treasures that were being hidden around TK Maxx stores. And there would just be winning labels, winning gold labels that were hidden within the store. People needed to search for them, find them, and they would exchange them for a £5 gift card to spend in the store. Got people's footfall into the store, it really got people engaged. And it doesn't need to be an almighty massive prize in order to manage that achievement. Competitions then, as I said, there's that element of skill involved. So in this instance, the independence will be required where there's judgment of entries. So we would need to look at exactly how that runs. But the best thing to do is jump to our example to explain this in a little bit more detail. So for Heinz, in this instance, it's quite a replica really of one that we ran many years ago with Cadbury's. And this is to invent a new flavour of Heinz beans. The Cadbury's inventor version was to invent a new flavour of chocolate bar. And in both instances, consumers are asked to go onto the website, select from a predetermined list of possible ingredients, and then submit their entries as to why they believe that that's the best flavour. So in the Cadbury's instance, there were two elements that meant we ticked the independent box and also served the client well. In the very first year that ran, we had 200,000 entries. Now, I'm sure Cadbury's wouldn't mind me saying, I expect they have neither the time nor maybe the inclination to sit and judge all 200,000 entries. So as part of ticking that independent judge box, we had a team of auditors who completed a levelling exercise of what was considered a good, an average, and a perhaps less than average, maybe even poor entry. Judge them all against the criteria based on what the client viewed to be a good entry. And then we got them down to the top 50. Those top 50 were then taken to the client for them to rejudge against the same criteria. But you'll also see on the previous slide, this bottom line that they must be competent to judge the promotion. Every judge. So what that means is we had an expert from flavor profiling, an expert from shopper marketing that knew what Cadbury's consumers wanted. And then we had somebody from the finance department who said, well, gold leaf and caviar isn't going to work. It's too expensive. We can't make this a feasible product. That wouldn't necessarily score very highly for them. And so this is what Heinz Beans is based on. This promotion has really just recently gone live. So it's going to be hopefully an exceptionally exciting promotion for people to participate in, and to be able to whittle down to the 3 winning flavour profiles so that they will go to production and then launch with an exclusive retailer. So it's a really, really exciting type of competition that could be run with your brands. Another example, maybe not so on pack, maybe not so expensive to operate, would be the Lego Message to Space promotion that ran recently. This was a really lovely one whereby we were able to engage with entrants that were under the age of 18 through consent from their parent or guardian. And the idea was that with the help of a grown-up, they would record a short video or audio message telling Lego what your fantastical outer space play date would be like. And then 10 lucky children got their message broadcast into space, which is an exceptionally exciting prize for them, a money can't buy prize. So it doesn't always have to be on pack or FMCG led. This really can work for any type of promotion or any type of brand that you can think of. And then the last mechanic that we'll touch on is rewards. As I said, they sound nice and straightforward to run, but actually there are some considerations that need to be made. That we've got to specify the number and nature of gifts, if applicable. Now, if everybody that's completing an action is receiving a discount code, then really we don't need to stipulate the number of gifts. They're limitless. But we absolutely need to disclose the nature of that gift. What level of discount? Where can it be used? By when? What are the exclusions? Can it be used in conjunction with other codes? Blue light card, etc. That must all be communicated to make it exceptionally clear. If you are running a gift with purchase whereby there is a physical item being offered as a gift, then the number of those gifts is absolutely necessary to communicate to consumers if there's a finite number. An example would be the Kellogg's Academy last year that we ran with Kellogg's on their cereal packets. To purchase a product that was there, the packaging was disrupted to make it look like a football shirt. You go online, you claim a code in order to redeem against a free camp day with a football club in the EFL, the English Football League of your choice. Obviously, there was a limited number of codes. So the messaging of every purchase gets wasn't going to be compliant, wasn't going to be accurate, because there were only 30,000 of these free camp day codes available. So rather than free with every pack, the messaging was 30,000 free camp days available. Absolutely, I hear when people say maybe it's not as catching or attractive as a title, but it's compliant, which soothes me. So we really need to have those two things hand in hand. What is compliant? What is an attractive call to action? And how do we bridge the gap between the two? As an example then of a gift with purchase promotion, this is one that we supported Energizer in running across 67 markets. So obviously as an international promotion, we need to be mindful of all of the requirements within specific markets that maybe aren't as lenient as the UK. So in order to make them feel confident that this mechanic was possible across all these markets, we conducted what was called a legal review for them. Here's the answers for you to say that yes, you can do it, and in what guise, or perhaps it has to change slightly in order to ensure its compliance. And it was association with this partnership with the Trolls 3 movie. So in this instance, it was to purchase any Energizer product. There were a couple of exclusions that we had to call out, but mostly any Energizer product. You go online, upload your receipt, and you could claim your free gift. In certain markets, this was an ebook. Other markets, it was a plush toy, depending on stocks and their popularity, the size of the market. So this was something that we supported them in running from a legal perspective only, but it was exceptionally successful, and they run this in many guises over the years of different partnerships with different streaming, either films that are being broadcast and streamed, or maybe a series. The question we get asked a lot, though, after all of this is who is considered independent? Typically, I would suggest that the agencies ask us more than the brand, because they would feel that they could be the independent party to select the winners. Now, according to the definitions set forward by the ASA, anybody who has a contractual relationship with the promoter or works for the company that does wouldn't be considered independent. Now, that's not to suggest that you wouldn't have the best intentions at heart of doing things entirely fair and randomly or judging competently. You would not be considered independent if you and your agency has a contractual contractual relationship with the brand, even if you sat on totally different brand teams within an agency. So that's something to bear in mind, that you need to consider who your independent party is going to be. Essentially, it's why we set up really on a basic level 22 years ago. What is important to understand is that those who are paid to be independent fall outside of that definition of a contractual relationship. So naturally, yes, that absolutely does include Promo Veritas, but it could also include an influencer or a celebrity your brand is currently not contracted with and is not engaging with on any other basis. You could pay them to be your independent party, providing that they can demonstrate such. So that's something that you could bear in mind. You know, I'm not trying to push necessarily our services, but you have to factor into your considerations who genuinely would be considered independent. So, having looked through the ASA, what I want to do is touch on something slightly more, not necessarily scary, but serious quickly for you, just to understand how other pieces of legislation could impact you on running your promotions in the UK. So not many people would necessarily be familiar with the Consumer Protection from Unfair Trading Regulations, or what we paraphrase as to CPR here at Promo Veritas. And it is 31 marketing practices that are banned outright with zero excuse for breach. Not knowing about it is indefensible. And what the concern here is, what I would say, is that unlike the ASA, this has teeth, because punishments can include up to 2 years imprisonment. I mean, it's not happened yet, but you never know. So by all means, if you don't like your MD, crack on. But significant fines. And when we talk about significant fines, there have been fines into the millions of pounds. So this is certainly something that we want to be mindful of as brands and agencies. Now, I'm not going to touch on all 31. There is one rule specifically that I want to look at relating very much to prize promotions. But let's just get an understanding quickly of what CPR means. And essentially, it's saying don't mislead your consumer, either by what you say, a direct lie, or by what you don't say, a significant omission, which, had the consumer known, would have impacted on their decision as to whether or not to engage with the brand. And crucially, a significant omission is no less illegal than a direct lie. They're as bad as each other under this law. So just not telling them something that they might needed to have known is as bad as lying to them directly about what it is they're going to get. So it's utterly important to understand this rule, which is number 19. And it says if you're running a prize promotion without awarding the prize as described, or at least a reasonable equivalent, this is a breach of the consumer protection from unfair trading regulations. So that's something that we need to sit up and listen to, bearing in mind what the consequences are of potential fines. So an age-old example here is that Red Bull, the drink, were offering a VIP trip to the Belgian Grand Prix Formula One racing. Now, obviously, we know that Red Bull also have a Formula One team. So considering that it includes flights and accommodation and it's called VIP, we could probably come to a fairly logical conclusion what that means. Pit lane access, bit of hospitality, luxury travel and accommodation, all covered under the cost of the brand, running this as a promotion for their consumers. So naturally, given the attraction of the promotion, they had thousands of entries, but there was one individual winner who took his brother who felt a little bit hard done by. This will be why. First things first, he flew via Ryanair. And if you've flown via Ryanair, you know it's definitely not VIP. And they landed in Cologne. Now, Cologne's in Germany. Germany's not Belgium. So there's problem one. Secondly, they then discover, he and his brother, that they have to travel to the hotel a distance of 75 miles at their own expense. Then they discover that the hotel's actually in Maastricht. Maastricht is in the Netherlands. The Netherlands also obviously is not Belgium. So we're 2 countries in and nowhere near the target destination. They get to the hotel to find out it's a 3-star hotel, and the twin room that they had requested was in fact a double room. So I guess big spoon, little spoon debate ensues. Had a lovely cozy night together to then travel down to the circuit at their own expense, mind, another 45 minutes. So they're finally at the event in the right country to discover they actually only had standard grandstand seats, no pit lane, no hospitality, not even a hot dog thrown in. But just because this couldn't possibly get any worse, right? What they discovered was they then had to leave before the final of the race to travel 100 miles at their own expense to a different airport to get home. All in all, not necessarily what one would coin as VIP. And this was the issue with it, that the significant information likely to influence someone's understanding should have been stated in the promotional material, those summary terms and conditions that I referred to earlier. They also went in on the term VIP, than what it was supposed to be understood as and what it wasn't. And again, logical conclusion would mean we could absolutely apply this ruling to other types of communication. Win a skiing holiday. Is it though, or is it just a chalet in the mountains with no lift pass and no ski hire? Family holiday. What's a family? One of how many children? 4, 7? I'm genuinely one of 7. Can it be taken during school holidays, or can it only be taken in term time? In which case it's not a family holiday. We have genuinely had that as an example from a client wishing to run a family holiday promotion. So all of these things you need to factor in. Now, again, from a marketing perspective, I totally understand the desire to embellish and to make things come across as attractive, but particularly in this instance, well, you can't polish a turd. You can't even roll this one in glitter necessarily. So it's a difficult line to tread, but what is absolutely vital is that you are clear to your consumers exactly what they are or are not winning. And so therefore, if it's not the greatest of prize and you're not really feeling the desire to put this disclosures in the summary terms, you're left with the option of changing your prize to improve it better. Otherwise, we're in the situation where embellishing your details or what you're calling this prize could end you up in some hot water. So the way it's communicated is just as important as the way I would draft your terms and conditions for you. So the last section then is to how to run promotions on social media. Not quite sure how we're doing on time. Okay, we've got 15 minutes, so I'll whiz through this one, see if we can get to some Q&As at the end. So just some tips for success for you then. Every platform has its own rules, which is a whole nother session entirely, but we can absolutely support clients on what they can run and how on different platforms. Another time, by all means, just come and ask us some questions. But the most important 3 things that you must still have your summary terms and you must link to the full terms and conditions. That means that in Instagram, you need to direct them to a link in the bio of the brand page. See, URLs aren't clickable from the copy underneath a post. You've got to have a unique hashtag and asking people to enter, particularly with a comment underneath a promotional post or when they're posting something themselves on their Instagram grid or, on other platforms. The reason being is twofold. Firstly, when it comes to data extraction, if they're using that unique hashtag, we can search for it, we can find their entry, and we can pull it off, and we can enter them into the promotion. Secondly, by using a hashtag unique to that prize promotion, we know that they are acknowledging specifically that they're entering that campaign. Therefore, I, as a legal person, can impose the terms and conditions on them. Brilliant. What I would suggest, however, though, is that when you come to pick your hashtag, that you check it thoroughly. And here's why. We worked with an agency who looked after Warburton's social pages for many, many years. And a good few years ago now, I had one of the account managers at the agency come to me and say, we want to run a Christmas promotion for Warburton's. Tell us what you would have as your Christmas sort of crumpet topping. We will enter them all into a prize draw, and they'll win a book called The Crumpet Christmasaurus, written by Tom Fletcher from McFly. And we'll also send them to the play adaptation of this book, get some tickets and send the family there. If you check the hashtag, yeah, all good to go. Crumpet Creations, fantastic. Promotion went live. 3 days later, I get a phone call to say, just a small problem. Turns out the hashtag is also used by a group of niche fetishes who dress up as lovely furry animals and have somewhat adult relationships with one another. Not necessarily where a family bakery brand would want to sit. And I said to him, I swear, I'm sure you told me you checked the hashtags. No, I did. And it was just people in animal costume. I didn't see anything wrong with it. Just bear in mind here, he was looking for baked goods, crumpets. So, probably it should have flagged something for him to maybe look at a little bit further. So a lesson from me to you, before you settle on the hashtag, when I say check it, what I mean is thoroughly vet it to make sure we don't end up in this position. Naturally, we changed the hashtag halfway through the promotion, still entered those who had participated properly using the original hashtag, but unfortunately not before somebody had tweeted about it and the Metro and the Mail Online got hold of it and ran the story. So take that as a lesson. Another version was an agency that we were working with for the Walkers promotions in and around their sponsorship of the UEFA Champions League. When the final was played at Cardiff Stadium, there was an idea to submit, or to create, should I say, a Mexican wave walk, a walker's wave you'll see here in the bottom right-hand corner. Everybody that submitted a selfie, there was then imposed on a white piece of card that Gary Lineker held and said, don't you look lovely? Now look at yourself on the side of the Cardiff Stadium. So when moderation was recommended, unfortunately, it just wasn't the budget or time to implement this. So as much as the agency sort of backed us up on pushing this forward, the brand ultimately said, we just don't have that budget anymore. So they got a couple of interns in to support on this. Now, what that meant was no body parts appeared on the side of the stadium, but unfortunately, what those interns weren't necessarily familiar with were the last century's most, notorious dictators, paedophiles, criminals, murderers, essentially. So that kind of ended them in a bit of hot water because the promotion obviously had to be pulled down within less than 24 hours. But what it meant was that we had to remoderate again to make sure that those who had sought to participate in the promotion were entered in order for a chance to win tickets to go to the UEFA Champions League final in the stadium. Now, absolutely, we don't want the idiot who submitted a picture of Jimmy Savile to be sat inside the stadium. So hence the moderation was needed anyway at the end. So another lesson from us to you in terms of moderating content when you're asking consumers to engage with you on social media in order to enter a prize promotion. Now, that one was with moderation. This is an example that, due to the nature of it, was not moderated. And the idea was that on Mother's Day, you would tell Penguin Books, the publishers of those lovely family-friendly books that we all read as children, why you love your mum in order for a chance to win her something for Mother's Day, using hashtag your mum. Now, if you don't have a your mum joke, then these are the three that were on the BBC website the next day. So feel free to use these going forward. But this was absolutely a slide that I have shown to a number of clients to explain to them maybe why they shouldn't consider running a promotion necessarily in the guise they had thought about it. We had a tissue brand come to us to say, can we ask people to put on their Instagram stories what they do with their tissues outdoors? No, really no. Not a good idea, and here's why. You know, we will absolutely all fall into that bubble sometimes of assuming everybody loves our brand as much as we do, but we've got to consider those trolls, and these are your prime examples as to why. So I have a little bit of time for some questions if we've had any come through on the Q&A.
Yes, thank you very much, Amy. That was really sort of informative, and I'm sure we've all got like a lot of inspiration now of how we can run our promotions compliantly, but still in a fun and exciting way. So one of the questions was like about the international side of things. Like in Europe, do you have to have alternative methods of entry, or like in what kind of capacity do you have to think about the entry methods?
Yeah, so by alternative method of entry, I'm assuming they mean sort of a no purchase necessary route if there is a purchase required to enter promotion. For the majority of markets in Europe, it's not actually essential to have one, but there are also a number of markets that will not permit purchase associated games of chance. And what I mean by that is you have to make it totally free to enter, and just offering the option of a no purchase necessary route isn't enough. So there would be certain markets whereby if it's linked to a game of chance, more often than not, what it needs to look like is that your promotion must be totally free to enter. Now, there are a multitude of markets whereby we have two options to get around this. Either, yes, we make it totally free to enter, or we change the mechanic to an element of skill, and whereby, again, it kind of negotiates or gets around the need for these kind of requirements where you could then link it to purchase should you need to.
So thank you very much. So what should we do if we realise the promotional campaign is already is suddenly non-compliant, but it's already gone out? Like, is there anything that is possible to do after the promotion has gone live?
It's quite a difficult one because in the UK, it's the cap code is quite clear in the sense that it talks about you cannot be altering or amending the terms and conditions of promotion if it's going to impact on somebody's chances of winning had they sought to participate in the promotional period already. So if it's already gone live and you've already had entrants, then there are sometimes clarifications that we can make on maybe prize details, etc., that aren't going to impact on anybody's chances of winning, but we could position as this is a clarification on what the prize does or doesn't include. If we're looking at winner selections, then we are more limited. So it's certainly worth us having that conversation with the brand or the agency to see what the options are and how we can run it. If you've had no entrants thus far, then absolutely you're fine because you're not disadvantaging anybody who's participated already. So then absolutely there's ways of pausing the promotion, amending the terms and conditions, and uploading them again. And therefore we now impose those terms and conditions on anybody that seeks to participate in the promotion. So that's certainly an easier position to be in. You can still have independent winner selection, even if you've not stated necessarily that independent winner selection is going to be part of the terms and conditions, because you could just ask for oversight of it in order to comply. You know, oversight, independent oversight of the winner selection, and the brand can still be involved now. The agency can still be involved if that's who you've said is selecting the winners in your terms. So hopefully that's a bit of a top line response, but by all means, give us a call and we can absolutely support on that one.
Thank you very much. So are there any kind of sample giveaways exempt from sort of T's and C's? Like, is there any kind of promotions that you can kind of run without sort of doing summary T's and C's, or you know, kind of where is the line kind of with that?
Really, there's only one type of promotion which we haven't touched on here because it's not regulated per se, is known as a surprise and delight type of promotion. And by the very nature of surprise and delight means that you haven't communicated the promotion to any consumers. There's no call to action, do this for a chance or do this, full stop. It would simply be that if you are scrolling through tags of your brand on Instagram and you see somebody that's put an amazing piece of content together or has used your products in an ingenious way, you can reward them with a surprise and delight type of gift. Other than that, any type of promotion that we've discussed, whereby there's a call to action in order to do something, in order for a chance to win or to receive a gift, then the cap code rules apply, whereby terms and conditions and all of those other considerations that we discussed absolutely would be relevant.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Do you have to prove to the entrants that the winner selection is random? And so how would you go about sort of proving that?
So it's not a burden of proof to the entrants necessarily, other than stating in the terms and conditions that the winners will be selected at random via an independent third party. But it's more to the Advertising Standards Authority. If they were to come and ask for evidence, then absolutely the system would have to be assessed. Now, we've certainly, as a company that's been going 22 years, been scrutinised over the years. But what we also provide our clients is like a certificate of verification, essentially a document that says, yes, everything's been done compliantly. So if they get asked by the ASA, they can provide the document, and by all means, sometimes they have to direct them to us. But what's important to consumers is to be able to see who has won. It's called a winners list. And this is a requirement from the cap code, which basically says that the surname and county of the winner, or at least the main prize winners, if you've got thousands of people winning a baseball cap and one holiday winner, then really we just need to focus on that main prize. We need to have their surname and county posted, or at least made available on request via an email address to prove that the winner was selected. Now, due to data protection rights, the winner has obviously the opportunity to ask for their data to be redacted. And the winners list would just simply say that it was awarded to an individual in this county and they've requested for their personal data to remain private. It doesn't exclude you from having to provide that data to the Advertising Standards Authority, their surname and county again. But typically, it's not that frequent unless there is a consumer writing into the ASA to trigger them to ask for that. Otherwise, it would just be rather a sporadic, random request.
Thank you. Nice to know that we're sort of being compliant with everything in our own promotions. But yeah, so sort of as a kind of a roundup for this thing. So the title is sort of keeping it legal without losing the spark. What kind of advice would you give to sort of marketing and legal teams working together with the kind of creative ideas coming up against the legal thing, how not to sort of lose that inspiration?
I think for marketers to educate yourselves on the basics of compliance will mean that you are more likely to take to your legal team some concepts that are more workable, more possible, more compliant. And it's also an idea, how I prefer to work with our clients is to get involved at some of the earlier stages. So even if it's a concept, at this point, we could say, I've got option A, B, hopefully even C for you. What's the best one? How can we word it, etc. Here's some potential artwork. So they can look in and feed, and we have time to impact on it. What's harder is if a client comes to us and says, we're launching tomorrow, this is the artwork, this is the website can't be changed, etc. And therefore we have to manage their expectations and understandings of risk. So get your legal team involved as soon as you can, even at concept stage. Educate yourselves on these basic compliance requirements so that at least you're familiar with how things can and should be communicated, which means your legal team are likely to be more on board. But you have seen there are ways of pushing the boat out. There are concepts whereby some fantastically creative entry mechanics or prizes can be offered. But it's just understanding, you have to come from a position of understanding how that needs to be explained to a consumer. Really, all you need to do is be fair and transparent. That's the main things. So don't shy away from working with your legal teams or your compliance managers. And from a legal perspective, it's good to understand not just what it is they're trying to do, but really let's come from also a position of what are the risks? How likely is it that risk will actually come to fruition? And what's the worst that risk could be? What does the likely fine look like? What does it look like? And there are some brands who will have a higher risk profile and be prepared to adopt more of a risk than others. And ultimately, that's a brand-led decision. But be familiar with risk profiles and compliance, I suggest, would be your top takeaways.